friends, and welcome to today's video. It's time. I have been waiting literal years for this moment, but it is finally time. I'm finally making a video where I just sit down and I complain about the mamas for a bit. So here's the deal with how this video is going to work. I have been watching a lot of Jenny Nicholson. To be specific, I've been rewatching a lot of Jenny Nicholson, and phenomenal channel, phenomenal content. I'll link it in the description on the off chance you don't know who she is. But her whole thing, she makes a lot of numbered lists for her videos. And since I've been on a Jenny Nicholson kick, I've decided to organize my complaints into a numbered list. A brief disclaimer before we continue, however, all of my complaints are technically opinions, and when we get to the last one, they're also all alleged, so I want to stress that, like, they're opinions, though, like, you can disagree with all of them, and that's totally fine. Okay, starting us off, we have complaint number 1, and it's boring. That's my first complaint. It's boring. I think the mamas got really boring, for me at least, in, like, 2018, I would say, where they started giving all the awards to really one of 5 artists or so, and it's boring. For context, okay, there are 20 what I have considered main awards this year, right? Like, they were not 100% fan voted, ergo main awards, right? Of those 20 awards, there were 11 winners. Not the worst ratio in the world, however, if you do not separate out each of the Bangtan members into their own artist, there were 8 winners. But, like, it's so boring going in. Like, I knew walking into these mamas, 17 and New Jeans were combined gonna take home, like, minimum 6 wins. They took home 8, if you were wondering. But, like, walking in, I already knew minimum half of the wins, right? And I want to compare for a minute, because everyone I've seen on Twitter, at least a while ago, I don't know if they still do, because I don't engage with it, but I saw a lot of people that used to compare the mamas to the Grammys. So we're gonna do that for a minute. At the Grammys, for example, it isn't weird for an artist to win like 5 awards in one night and walk home with 5 Grammys. That's not an unheard of feat. It's actually weirdly common. But the difference is the Grammys have like 8 trillion awards. The Grammys have so many awards you can win. Whereas the mamas, again, like this year we had 20 major awards and then like another 10 or so favorite awards, which were all fan voted and I don't care about. But like of the major awards, right, they did not have a variety. Variety is dead. Which brings me to complaint number 2. This, to be fair, actually didn't really apply in 2023, but it did a little bit. For the love of God, for the love of all that is good in this world, I need the mamas to stop dick riding Bangtan so hard. Like, starting in 2018, I would say, the mamas became obsessed with giving Bangtan literally every award under the sun. And before you raise your hand and say, well, they were the most popular group, like, it makes sense. That did not apply to, like, Girls' Generation, to 21, to Big Bang, to EXO, to all these other groups that were also the most popular group at their time. They did not win like Bangtan used to win at the mamas, okay? There's a Daesung, right? I think it's like worldwide fans' favorite artist. I already forgot the name because it's stupid and fake. It's 100% fan voted. It has existed since 2018. It has only ever gone to Bangtan, including this year, 2023, a year they literally did nothing. They also won Artist of the Year every single year from 2016 until this year when they didn't win it. And for the record, from a factual, like numerical, actual standpoint, it does not make sense for them to win Artist of the Year in a minimum half of those years, right? Like, it just, the numbers do not work. The math isn't mathing. However, of course, we have to give them every fucking Daesung under the sun. Like, please give me a break and be honest with yourself. Also, since we're on the topic of Bangtan and the mamas, and I want to talk about this, I saw a tweet today that was basically saying something along the lines of, like, no BTS, no views, because mama viewership was way down this year because it's boring. But I saw that tweet, and I was like, that doesn't make sense, right? So I did some research, because I love to learn. I did some research. Bangtan has not appeared, or at least has not performed at the mamas since 2020. At least, like, as a group, they have not performed since 2020. So, like, you're wrong. Warning, warning, Simon warning time. Complaint number 3 will contain references and or mentions of suicide. So if you would like to avoid that, you may skip to this timestamp. If you are continuing, I'm assuming you're okay with it. Complaint number 3. The Mama's not doing a memoriam thing specifically for Moonbin this year pisses me off. Like, yes, I'm biased. He was my favorite member of Astro, which was my favorite group. But, like, they should have done something. The fact that Seungkwan mentioned in his album of the year acceptance speech Moonbin dying, it's like, and the Mamas said nothing. The Mamas really sat there and were like, who said that? Who talks about Moonbin? Who's Moonbin? It's embarrassing. I remember when Jonghyun died, and it was December of 2017. It was after the 2017 Mamas. So by the time the 2018 Mamas rolled around, it had been almost a year. And while I stand by they should have done something, because if I recall correctly, they didn't do anything. I know the Golden Disc did something, but I don't think the Mamas did an in memoriam for Jonghyun. And, like, for that one, it's more understandable because it had been almost a year, but, like, it's embarrassing at this point, if not downright disrespectful. I understand that from a numerical standpoint, right? Not a ton of idols and not a ton of just people in general in the Korean music entertainment sphere die every year. Just there's less of them than there are in America because the Grammys do an in memoriam section every year, I'm pretty sure. And I understand that there would be less people for the Mamas to do. However, I do not think that is a valid excuse. Like, I don't care if it's 30 seconds long. I want you to do something because it's disrespectful at this point and it's not okay. On to a more lighthearted topic. The performances are boring. They're just bad. Complaint number 4 is that the performances are bad because I feel like this is also something that happened in 2018. Yes, there's a trend. We'll get to it. But I feel like more recently, like in the past 5 years, Mama performances have just lacked that oomph factor. Like, who remembers Taemin's 2016 Mama performance? I do. It's burned in my brain. It is literally one of the best performances the Mamas have ever done. Or even his 2017 performance. Like, I understand we can't all be Taemin because nobody can be Taemin, but I would like people to try harder. Like, I would like there to be more excitement. It's so bad that, like, for the Melon Music Awards, right, for the various galas that happen at the end of the year, I usually make a performance review video because it's fun for me. It's fun for me to sit down and talk about every single stage, because more often than not, I like the stages. I usually clump all the ones I don't care about at the start, and then I can just talk about the fun ones, and I can make, like, a good 20 to 30 minutes of content out of just talking about the stages that I like, right? That is not true for the Mamas. I don't care about so many of these stages because I just don't like, the people that I like aren't going to the Mamas, but we'll get to that. But also, it's like, I have no desire to make a Mama performance review because most of these performances aren't stages I would watch if I wasn't making a video. Yes, I will concede. Every year, there's always 1 or 2 standout stages, right? Like, Kara last year was a life-altering experience for me, and even that Goddess collaboration stage this year was really cool. But at the end of the day, these aren't performances I'd want to watch, and that's the thing. Like, when I make my videos, it's because I'm watching the performances anyway. That's why I'm like, okay, if I'm going to watch, like, 60 to 70% of these performances anyway, I can sit through the other 30%, right? For this one, it's like, I'd be watching 30%. I have no desire to see the other 70. Complaint number 5. It's very predictable. Like, it's so fucking predictable at this point. Going into this year's Mamas, of the main awards, again, the non-fan voted ones, I guess I would say with like 90 to 95% accuracy who was gonna win every award. And I did some research because I love to learn. As previously mentioned, we love learning in this house. And I did some research. I went back to the 2017 criteria, what I would consider the last great year of the Mamas, at least for me. And I looked at their criteria, right? I looked at the various categories and what determined the winners. Back in 2017, sales only made up 40% of the criteria. The other 60% was a split between fan votes, specifically just given the demographics. It was a lot of international fans voting, whereas the sales were only Korean sales. And then the other 30% was an industry panel. It was an interesting combination because you had international fans mostly covering the votes, you had more domestic fans who were covering the sales, and then you had industry experts who were going to do their own thing and pick who they thought should win. You had interesting results. For context, right? This year, in 2023, the industry panel was 20% of the vote, right? Like, not that big of a shift. The rest of the score, the other 80%, was entirely based off of digital and physical sales, okay? 80%. And granted, they did integrate international streaming. There's a split between them, fine, whatever. But you don't get that same interesting result. And there's also no more fan voting, right? Like, I could have sworn last year you could vote it for the mamas. I guess I was wrong. I can't find anything about fan voting in the criteria for last year. I must have hallucinated. But, like, you want that fan... It's exciting. Now they have fan voting, sure, but it's for awards that are only fan voted, and they're not real, to me at least. Like, I'm sorry, you getting, like, favorite dance performance because it's 100% fan voted doesn't really matter to me. Like, I don't care. I saw an all K-pop article. I think it was an all K-pop article. It might have been Swoopy because I followed both of them on Twitter, but it was one of the two. And it was a tweet of an article being like, oh, these predictions were so accurate this year. Like, it's so cool how well we predicted the results or whatever for the mamas. And I was sitting there being like, no, that's actually bad to me. Like, if I can predict who's gonna win almost every award accurately, I have no need to watch the actual mamas. And it means nothing interesting happened. Nothing exciting happened. It was boring. Complaint number 6. Nobody goes to the damn mamas anymore. Like, no one bothers to show up, right? So, in comparison to other years, we're going to look at this year's nominee list and compare it to the people who actually performed. Like, who was both nominated for an award or won an award, because if you won, you were nominated, but who was up for an award and actually performed. Yes, I'm going to read a list because it's a list. I'm going to just read it off my laptop. We're all going to be okay with it. Cool. X-Hikers, Somi, Tuxt, Rise, Boy Next Door, L's Up, Z-Bone, LE SSERAFIM, Treasure, Giddle, 17. That is everyone who was nominated for an award and actually showed up. And you might be thinking, wow, that's a pretty robust list, right? I would like to remind us all, there were like 40 artists who were nominated for an award. That's a pretty low number if you really think about it. And even on this list, there's only really 4 big groups, as I would call them, right? Like, the major artists aren't coming to the mamas anymore, at least for the most part. They aren't coming to the mamas anymore. New Jeans didn't come. IVE didn't come. Stray Kids didn't come. No one from JYP came. Like, 1 or 2 artists, I think, from SM came. Barely anyone is coming to the mamas anymore. And by comparison, that's not good. Like, Big Bang used to come to the mamas when they were up for awards. 2NE1's reunion performance, arguably their greatest stage in their entire career, was at the mamas. People aren't coming anymore. I would also like to point out something that I thought was interesting because I was looking at the list of performers, and Hypen and ATEEZ both performed at the mamas this year, and I thought that was interesting because they are both groups I explicitly stated were snubbed in my snubs video because both of them should have been up for at least the performance award, if nothing else, because both of them have very good choreography. And I think it's interesting that they were like, yeah, we'll still perform at your award show. Like, I'm petty, I'm crazy, it's true, it's a thing about me, like, I'm a crazy bitch. But if you didn't nominate me for a single award, I'm not coming to your ceremony to make my fans watch it. Like, you fucked me over, I will fuck you over. We have reached the final complaint. Complaint number 7. This is a very niche complaint, but it's something I can actually talk about, so I think it's interesting. I think it's actually funny more than anything else. It's not really a complaint, it's just funny. So, the mamas have validators, right? I don't know if they've always done this, it doesn't say, but they do have validators this year. They use PwC, aka PricewaterhouseCoopers, and it's an interesting choice. Like, obviously they're gonna have validators. I mean, hypothetically speaking, if one or several of your shows had been caught being actively rigged by your production staff, you'd think you'd want to have a reputable firm validate the results of your award ceremony, hypothetically speaking. And for those who don't know accounting lore, I have a bachelor's degree in accounting. That's literally the only reason I can tell you this. But for those who don't know the lore, PwC is one of the big 4, right? There's 4 big accounting firms. PwC is one of them, and is, hypothetically speaking, known by many to be the worst, like the least reputable and just in general, the worst one to work for. And I asked my friend, I have a friend who worked at Deloitte, he quit this year, but I had a friend who worked at Deloitte. He used to sleep under his desk because he had to work such insane hours, okay? I asked him what was the worst of the big 4, like of any of them, and he immediately replied PwC. Just a few things that make PwC an interesting choice. Hypothetically speaking, allegedly, whatever you want to call it, although I'm 30% sure all of these have been proven in a court of law. But hypothetically speaking, they've had more corruption scandals than a South American dictatorship. They've been fined constantly for tax evasion, and not in a, like, oh, we accidentally gave you bad advice tax evasion, like in a here's how you can launder money tax evasion kind of way. And I would argue the most notable recent thing they did was, hypothetically speaking, helping Russian oligarchs hide their money and avoid sanctions following the Russian invasion of Ukraine last year. And that's not even the most recent thing on the issues section of their Wikipedia page, a section longer than the notes for this video. In summary, it is, hypothetically speaking, the least reputable of the big four that you could pick to validate the results of your work. Also, I was texting the bestie and she thought it was interesting they hired any one of the big four to do the validation, which I'm not going to get into. I think it makes sense. But either way, hypothetically the least reputable, and also, hypothetically speaking, now that they've been caught doing similar things in the past, would probably rig your results for an extra fee. And I just think it's an interesting choice if you were a company that, hypothetically speaking, had been caught on several occasions rigging your shows. I think that's enough hypotheticals for tonight, and I think that's enough complaining for tonight. In summary, my core issue with the mamas is that they're boring. They should put me in charge. I'm just saying, like, I would come up with interesting collaboration stages. I would fix the mamas. I think I could do it, and I think they should put me in charge. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. This has literally been one of the funnest videos I've ever had, the joys of making on this channel. Like, I had the time of my absolute life taking these notes. I hope you liked it. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, or don't. I'll be okay either way. Also, comment down below any complaints you have about the mamas, because I'm sure I skipped a good few. So comment them if you want to. Also, in the description, I will put every other video I made about the 2023 mamas, so you can check them out if you so choose. And yeah, thank you again for watching. Bye!